For the first time in Asia, connect your landphone and smartphone through SLT Wi-Fi with the SLT Voice app.
AG marches on. Attorney General seeks direction from Chief Justice in criminal proceedings against 10 bond scam suspects. Decade samples. Remains of 4 terrorists killed in Saindamarudu explosions exhumed. Over-dependent. Central Bank Governor Indrajit Kumaraswamy says Sri Lanka must not excessively rely on the 5 main export destinations.
The over-reliance on these 5 volatile markets has a significant impact on the auction price.
Troubled relations. Coalition talks between Sri Lanka Freedom Party and Podujana Perumuna continue to roll. Key questions remain unanswered. These stories and much more coming up on First at 9 this Friday, the 7th of June 2019.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා fairness වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ fairness standard එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti-marks cream.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A very good evening and welcome to First at 9 on AdaDerana 24, Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katrina Chang. Now, the Attorney General has requested the Chief Justice to file indictments against 10 persons, including former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran, in relation to the Central Bank bond auction on the 27th of February 2015. Now we have details of this story but later on in the news. But on to our local news tonight. We start off with the fundamental rights petition filed by the Inspector General of Police against the decision to send him on compulsory leave is postponed until the 24th of June. On the 29th of April, Inspector General of Police Pujija Sundara was handed compulsory leave over investigations on the Easter Day attacks. The Speaker of Parliament, members of the Constitutional Council, the Attorney General, the Acting Inspector General of Police and several others were cited as the respondents of this petition, which was filed on the 29th of last month. The IGP has stated that he was sent on compulsory leave as per the orders of the President. However, this has violated his fundamental rights. He argues that the decision to send him on compulsory leave is completely against the law, as the President is not vested with such powers. Accordingly, the IGP seeks the Supreme Court to hear the petition and to deliver an interim order to void the decision to send him on compulsory leave until the hearing concludes. On to other local news. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe stresses the need to keep the country free of ethnic tension ahead of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the island. Addressing a meeting at Temple Trees this morning, the Premier said that his Indian counterpart is visiting the country since he is confident of Sri Lanka's security situation. Prime Minister Modi will be the first leader to visit the country following the horrific Easter Sunday attacks. A discussion on the measures that are to be taken by the government during the celebration of the Posun festival was held at the Temple Trees this morning. The discussion was presided over by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Following the Easter Sunday attacks, a number of tourists from various countries have left owing to the travel advisories issued on Sri Lanka. At present, not even a single room is booked at some hotels. We're now working on getting those advisories on Sri Lanka lifted. Several countries have already removed their advisories on Sri Lanka, and the European countries will also follow suit within a couple of days. Prime Minister Modi's arrival on Sunday is down to the confidence he has on the country's security situation. Even though we weren't ready for the attack attacks on Easter Sunday, there are no ISIS groups in Sri Lanka at present, and they too agree on that. But he has one problem, that is over the possibility of ethnic tension. I would like to remind the district secretaries not to allow such unrest in your areas. If one such situation erupts, the tourism industry will collapse. The Poson Festival is usually hosted in certain areas, but we have decided to host it in each city. We shouldn't let anyone create division during this Poya Day.
The remains of 4 terrorists who died in the explosion at the house in Saindamarudu were exhumed today as the samples of the corpses that were submitted to the government analysts had decayed. On the 26th of April, 15 persons, including 6 men, 3 women and 6 children, were killed in the explosion carried out by the terrorists inside a house in Saindamarudu of Kalmune. The deceased were buried on the 2nd of May at the public cemetery in Ampara after sending samples of their corpses to the government analysts for investigations. The police had recently obtained an order from the Kalmune Magistrates Court to exhume the remains of 4 terrorists as the samples that were submitted to the government analysts had decayed. More and more complaints are filed against parliamentarian Rishad Badruddin, who resigned from his ministerial positions recently, along with other Muslim ministers of the government. The ex-minister is accused of aiding and abetting terrorists involved in the Easter Sunday attacks. Parliamentarian Vimal Veeravansa recently alleged that MP Badruddin facilitated the use of vehicles belonging to Lanka for terror activities.
Former Minister Rishad Badruddin today filed a complaint against parliamentarians Vimal Veeravansa and S.B. Disanayake at the police headquarters. He alleges that the duo made irresponsible remarks about him and are inciting racial hatred.
Parliamentarian Vimal Veeravansa is making false statements by claiming that Satosa vehicles were used in terror activities. Meanwhile, ex-minister S.B. Disanayake is also levelling false accusations, and we filed a complaint against that too.
Meanwhile, parliamentarians S.B. Disanayake and Dilan Pereira lodged complaints with the police committee set up at the police headquarters to record complaints against former Minister Badruddin and ex-governors MLA M. Hizbullah and Asad Sali. Their complaint consists of 22 charges, including 2 murders.
It would be easier for investigations if Rishad is arrested. We revealed various links he maintained with terrorists. Rishad Badruddin now knows about the persons at Satosa who gave us information. Their welfare committee had been convened yesterday and some have been removed from positions. Rishad is still running the ministry with numerous security personnel and vehicles at his disposal.
Meanwhile, the organisation dubbed Truth Seekers also filed 3 complaints against Badruddin, Hizbullah and Sali. In addition, another complaint was filed against the recently resigned Muslim ministers, charging that they are misusing public property. In the meantime, the organisation called Ravana Balaya also filed a complaint with the CID against MP Badruddin.
Sri Lanka Freedom Party and Sri Lanka Polujana Perumuna continue to roll with talks of a coalition, but key questions continue to be left unanswered. Today, the 2 parties met for the 5th time in a backdrop where President Maithripalapala has been urged by his party members to stand for the looming presidential election. 5th round of talks between the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and Sri Lanka Polujana Perumuna on the proposed coalition was held at the opposition leader's office today.
We discussed the structure and the measures required for a proposed alliance. Accordingly, we intend to hold discussions with the leaders of both parties, along with their political alliances, within the next 2 weeks. We intend to meet again on the 17th. We believe that the President should contest the presidential election, and we suggested that as the parliamentary group of the SLFP. At the conclusion of these talks, we will be able to arrive at an agreement on the identity of our presidential candidate as well as the premiership candidate. We still haven't entered into an alliance, so we have our own opinion as the SLPP.
Opposition leader Maithripalapala is not keen on the president's latest move to crack down on timber mills, as he says that new timber mills should be allowed to register. The opposition leader's comments come following a meeting with the owners of the timber industry who met him following the announcement on the action taken by the government.
We must protect the nature while also protecting our timber industry. We believe this action will lead to the loss of a large number of jobs. We should increase forest cover to enable us to obtain wood. During our time, we did not charge taxes on timber that was imported and gave relief to the timber industry. We are of the view that they should not close down carpentry sheds and timber mills.
3 suspects, including a Chinese national, were arrested after STF personnel raided a house in the area of Etukala in Negombo and discovered various telecommunication equipment, including 17,400 SIM cards, 402 iPhones connected to the internet, and 60 internet routers, as well as other equipment. Police spokesperson SP Ruangunusekre said that this morning's raid was conducted based on information received by the STF, alerting them to suspicious persons engaged in illegal activities. The Chinese national taken into custody was found to be staying in the country without a valid visa. It has also been uncovered that the suspects had engaged in a telecommunication racket, especially when obtaining IDD calls using these equipment, and maintain the operations without a license. The amendment bill enabling law enforcement authorities to impose a fine of 25,000 rupees over traffic law violations identified under 6 offences in the Motor Traffic Act was passed in Parliament today. In the meantime, UPF MP Shahan Singh raised questions over foreign powers influencing the country's judiciary.
Upon invitation by the US Department of Justice, 12 judges of our country were called for a workshop in April 2019. Instead of the 6 judges from the Court of Appeal and other 6 from the Supreme Court, 3 High Court judges have also participated in the training program. The 3-member High Court judge bench hearing the case against Gotabaya Rajapaksa also happens to be at the workshop. If such countries are attempting to influence the independence of Sri Lanka's judiciary for political vengeance, it's a must that we stand against it.
And with that, we cross over to a short commercial break, but make sure you stay tuned for more local news on the other side. Welcome back to the news. The United Kingdom intends to keep pressure on Sri Lanka for further progress on human rights. Releasing the 2018 Foreign and Commonwealth Office report, the UK urged the Sri Lankan government to deliver on its commitments reflected in UNHRC Resolution 34/1.
The 2018 Foreign and Commonwealth Office report outlines key concerns pertaining to the human rights situation in Sri Lanka last year, including intercommunal tensions, the slow delivery of key reconciliation commitments, delays in introducing new human rights complaint counter-terrorism legislation, and a stalled transitional justice process. It also highlights that the 51-day constitutional crisis in the country last October further disrupted effective delivery of the mentioned areas. Despite acknowledging the fact that Sri Lanka showed progress in its efforts to promote and protect human rights, which resulted in the country's Human Rights Commission being upgraded to A status by the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, the United Kingdom calls for more progress. UK affirms that it will continue to press for further progress on human rights in Sri Lanka, including efforts to improve press freedoms, tackle gender inequality, and encourage the reform of discriminatory laws. It also urges the government to deliver on its commitments reflected in HRC Resolution 34/1.
Meanwhile, Facebook has admitted that the social media platform has known well in advance to the Easter attacks in Sri Lanka that its platform is being used to incite ethnic and religious tension. The admission has come as part of a Justice Committee hearing in Canada into online hate.
An official from Facebook says that the company realized long before this year's deadly attack in Sri Lanka that Facebook was being used to amplify ethnic and religious tensions. Testifying at Justice Committee hearing into online hate, Head of Public Policy for Facebook Canada Kevin Chan has said that the company knew as early as 2018 that its platform was being used to incite division and violence. Chang said, quote, "With regards to the tragedy in Sri Lanka, we know that the misuse and abuse of our platform may amplify underlying ethnic and religious tensions and contribute to offline harm in some parts of the world. This is especially true in countries like Sri Lanka, where many people are using the internet for the first time and social media can be used to spread hate and fuel tension on the ground," unquote. CBC News, however, highlights that Chan's comments to be in contrast to the company's response last week to questions from the International Grand Committee in Ottawa about the role Facebook played in the events that led up to the attack in Sri Lanka. It said that when questioned about videos that appeared on Facebook in Sri Lanka 6 months before the attacks, which were flagged to the company, urging people to kill non-Muslims, including women and children, Global Policy Director Neil Potts defended Facebook's sanctions. He is quoted saying that when Facebook are made aware of such content, the company removes it. Potts has, however, said that if it is not reported or if Facebook has not proactively identified it, then company would not remove it because they do not know it's there.
Moving on to one of our headline making news, the Attorney General has requested the Chief Justice to file indictments against 10 persons, including former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran, in relation to the Central Bank bond auction on the 27th of February 2015, and the case be instituted in the Permanent High Court at Bar in the Western Province. The move was communicated by a coordinating officer to the Attorney General, S.C. Nishara Jayaratna, today.
The Attorney General made a request to the Chief Justice this morning to file indictments against 10 individuals in respect of the wrongdoing at the Central Bank bond auction on the 27th of February 2015. According to a communiqué by the Attorney General's office, the accused are former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran, former Deputy Governor Pattinige Samarasiri, owner of PTL Arjuna Aloysius, CEO of PTL Kasun Palisena, the father of the owner of PTL Jeffrey Aloysius, Pushya Gunawardana, Ranjan Hulugalla, Muthuraja Surendran and Ajan Punchiheva. 23 counts involving 7 charges have been presented under the Public Property Act and Registered Stock Ordinance and Securities Ordinance. Among them is the conspiracy to commit criminal misappropriation in respect of the treasury bonds to the face value of Rs 10.58 billion against all suspects. The document also mentions criminal breach of trust in respect of treasury bonds to the face value of 10.58 billion rupees against Arjuna Mahendran and Pattinige Samarasiri, and thereby causing a loss to the government in a sum of 688 million and 762,100 rupees. Meanwhile, P. Samarasiri is charged with abetting Mahendran to commit criminal breach of trust. Perpetual Treasuries Limited, in the meantime, is charged with criminal misappropriation in respect of treasury bonds to the face value of 5 billion rupees. All the suspects listed are charged with abetting PTL to commit criminal misappropriation. Charges against PTL also include insider dealing, and all other suspects are charged with abetting the action. The Attorney General has also requested that the case be instituted in the Permanent High Court at Bar in the Western Province. The communiqué went on to say that it is by far the largest organised financial crime perpetrated in Sri Lanka by any person. It added that there are more indictments to be presented on the basis of the evidence revealed at the Bond Commission inquiry, an investigation conducted by the CID.
A recent report revealed that tea prices dropped to a national average of 51 rupees and 69 cents in May when compared with the same month a year earlier. The report begs to question if the Sri Lankan tea market is taking the correct path in the midst of a volatile global market. Speaking at an event recently, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nijut Kumaraswamy said Sri Lanka's tea exporters should not be over-reliant on the 5 main export countries, which include Iran, given the volatility in the market.
The world market price, which is beyond our control, is a critical determinant of the prospects of the economy, and the fact that that tends to fluctuate clearly makes decision making, particularly for smallholders, very challenging. Approximately 51% of Ceylon tea is exported to 5 countries: Iraq, Russia, Iran, Turkey and Libya. However, each of these 5 countries have volatile markets. The over-reliance on these 5 volatile markets has a significant impact on the auction price, as disruption, even in one market, tends to have serious ramification on Colombo tea auction prices. One such example, almost emblematic of the uncertainty and the problems in these markets, is the difficulties in payments from Iran. Sanctions, particularly the US sanctions, financial sanctions, have made it extremely difficult for us to have payment for our tea exports through normal channels, because our business for these big American banks is negligible. So they don't want to incur the administration costs of doing the due diligence to work out whether we are actually following the sanction requirements. So in the end, our banks, even our state banks, are very, very nervous about doing any business that channels financing to or from Iran. Minister has suggested a barter system. I think we're having a meeting next week at the Foreign Ministry, which we hope will be able to work out some form of barter system.
Sri Lankan Airlines has become the world's most punctual airline for the second consecutive year, with over 90% of its flights being on time in May. The achievement is noteworthy, particularly in consideration of the difficulties the island nation faced in the aftermath of the Easter Sunday attacks.
Sri Lankan Airlines is yet again nominated the world's most punctual airline, showing a punctuality rate of 90.75%. The national carrier says that this is the second time in less than 12 months the entity achieved this milestone, having also accomplished the world's #1 ranking in September 2018 with a punctuality rating of 91.37%. This achievement is more impressive given the fact the challenges the island faced in the recent past following the Easter Sunday attacks. Sri Lankan Airlines is a member of the One World Global Airline Partnership and operates a route network of 111 cities in 48 countries from its hub in Colombo, and also connects over 1,000 cities in 160 countries through its One World Partner Airlines. Marquee airlines in the world such as Qantas, Emirates and Qatar Airways are placed 16th, 10th and 13th respectively.
Sri Lankan shares ended a shade firmer, snapping a 4-session losing streak to edge up from the lowest close in nearly 3 weeks in the previous session, while the rupee ended slightly weak on mild imported dollar demand. The benchmark stock index ended 0.4% firmer today at 5,298.18, edging up from its lowest close since May 17, which was recorded yesterday. But the main index fell 0.24% for the week. The BOS had declined 12.46% this year. Meanwhile, turnover was 169.5 million rupees, less than this year's daily average of about 535.5 million rupees. The rupee ended at 176 rupees and 45 cents to 55 cents per dollar today, as analysts expect the rupee to weaken further as money flows out of stocks and government securities. With that, here's a look at today's foreign exchange rates. Well, we have news from overseas, but before that, let's cross over to a short commercial break. Theresa May officially steps down as the leader of the Conservative Party today, but will remain as Prime Minister until her successor is chosen. She announced her resignation 2 weeks ago, saying it was a matter of deep regret that she had been unable to deliver Brexit. 11 Conservative MPs are vying to replace her as party leader and ultimately Prime Minister. The winner of the contest is expected to be announced in the week of the 22nd of July. The United Arab Emirates has told the United Nations Security Council members yesterday that attacks on 4 tankers off its coast on the 12th of May bore the hallmarks of a sophisticated and coordinated operation, most likely by a state actor. In a document on the briefing to Security Council members, the UAE, joined by Norway and Saudi Arabia, did not say who it believed was behind the attacks and did not mention Iran, which has been accused by the United States of being directly responsible. According to the preliminary findings of the country's joint investigation, the attacks required expert navigation of fast boats and trained divers, who likely placed limpet mines with a high degree of precision on the vessels under the waterline to incapacitate but not sink them. Tehran, however, continues to deny any accusations. And with that, we conclude this edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.